Hi everyone. I wanted to make a quick video. Well, actually it might be pretty long, but a lot of people are asking me what I've seen psychically and through remote viewing underground and what's happening in Australia at the moment and what's been happening in the last few weeks. I did a couple of very, very deep meditations, which are kind of like on the astral realm, and they give me a very strong insight, almost like a remote viewing, and you kind of can't control these visions that you get when you do this type of meditation, which is very deep. It's almost like you're tapping into like the Akashic records. So I just want to preface this by saying that if you're not open to these sorts of very non-3D kind of references that I'm going to be saying, because I'm not going to be talking necessarily about military operations, I'm going to be talking more about what else is happening underground. And these things are, I had like literally no idea that this was going on at all, and I didn't expect it, and the information that came through, I feel like I need to share it with all of you so that you can discern and figure out what you feel is right and just use your own intuition as to what I'm saying. For me, what I saw was very, very real. Okay, so you could choose to believe me or you can choose to see it as a metaphor, but it was very, very real. And it's quite horrific, actually, what I saw underground. And so I'm just going to go through. I did write some notes because it was very complex, so I had to try and remember it all because it was last week. And so I will be looking down just because I'm going to be reading some of my notes to remember what it was that I said. So when I tapped into this thing, I basically just wanted to know what was happening in Victoria in particular and why were they in lockdown, what was going on underground. I hoped to see maybe just a little glimpse of what was happening, like a military operation, or to confirm if they were rescuing children. But what I saw was a lot worse than what I thought, and it made sense as to why, you know, there were curfews and things like that in place. So I hope you can keep an open mind. But basically, you know, when I went through it, it was like another world. It really was like another world. What I saw was like this massive, massive, massive tunnel system, which we've already kind of confirmed. A lot of people are confirming that through maps and, you know, mapping out the earthquakes that are going on. But this I saw just traversing the whole of Australia, going across to Pine Gap, up to, you know, across to Uluru. But in the pit, in the middle of Australia, was almost like a pit of fire. It's literally like a hell. I never thought I would say that ever, because you know, we're sort of, if you've been brought up a Christian, you know, and then you kind of leave that sort of religion, you think, oh, nah, hell is just like a metaphor, it's not real. This literally looked like hell. And the horrific scenes that I saw there, I don't even think I'm going to be able to explain to you what was really underneath the ground. But there was this massive, massive sinkhole underneath Central Australia. I saw these mythical creatures underground. They were like minotaurs. I saw dracos. I saw these ghouls that were white and like blood-sucking. I saw gargoyles. I saw what you would call jinn. I saw these black creatures with horns, and they're just horrible, disgusting creatures. And these giant creatures that almost look like like cyclops. I don't know how else to explain it. They were horrible. They were horrible, and they were feeding. They were feeding off these very, very pale children. They were really emaciated. They didn't look like. I have a feeling that these children were bred underground, and they didn't look like human almost. They were so emaciated and white, and they were being tortured and just eaten, and it was like a factory line of them. I got told that Broome in Western Australia, the northern part of Western Australia, was an entry point, and that children were shipped in from Asia and East Timor. So during the war in East Timor, there was a lot of children being brought in from there. There was the biggest thing that I felt from seeing this horrible underground system of just completely mythical, hellish reality or realm was that the energy that they were doing, what they were doing is, look, they're harvesting the energy. They're harvesting the energy of us above ground, as well as eating these children. And the realization that I felt when I was in this meditation was that this energy, this negativity, and this energy of them pulling, sucking our life force from us, from above ground, it's what keeps the hive mind active, basically. So this hell underneath the ground, which is beneath our feet, and it would be all across the world, but I'm focusing on Australia at the moment. It basically keeps those people that we call, sheep or sleepwalkers, it keeps that hive mind active.
So let's go back. Let's go to the first video. You did it, and you had some notes there. You put it out, and all the views went crazy. For anybody who's tuning into this and hasn't watched it yet, can you summarize what that journey was actually like?
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's extraordinary.
So I remember scanning my hand. I remember in the vision, I was trying to scan my hands over a map of Australia, and I kind of got an idea based on what Saul had showed me. And I was like, I've got to hone in on Victoria in Melbourne, because people had been saying, people were suffering, they'd just gone into lockdown. It was full on and nobody could understand why. And I was like, I want to know for sure, because I know that other people that I admired had tried to look in these tunnels and they claimed there was nothing, or that it was cocaine or it was money or whatever, right? And I just knew that something wasn't right. And I wanted to prove for myself. I did kind of have a skeptical kind of view. And I thought maybe we'll see some adrenochrome stuff. Maybe. I don't know. I thought it would be like a more clinical scientific sort of labs. So when I go in there, I pretty much, I start seeing what you would call like a mythical world. But it's pretty much full of demons. Like, and they were real. Like, this was like, it was like I was there. There's a feeling of like I'm floating and I'm right behind them. Like, I could see them. I could see the spine of this beast that was sort of hunched over, and it was lapping up blood on the floor. And I saw children that were very deformed, and their skin was almost like this splotchy white grey colour, and very fragile, and their faces, everything was not quite right about them. There's a famous painting, I think, is it Goya? I'm just trying to remember. And there's this beast that's sort of eating.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the stuff that I was seeing. I was seeing this. It was almost like, and even like I don't want to say it's like a Hieronymus Bosch kind of painting, but it was horrible. But they were mostly these demonic entities. But the thing that freaked me out the most, and I saw minotaurs. I saw
That's what I
Bad boys.
connected with, because I'd had a vision of a minotaur demon that came to me, was snorting. It was
Yeah,
more real than reality, and
yeah.
it was, basically saying, "Aren't you scared?" And I was like, "No," but
That
it was
was
so. And I'd forgotten about it, and then I saw your video. I was like, "I saw the same thing." Oh
that
my
was
god!
one of the first things that I saw. I mean, you're talking about, it's like Greek mythology, really. I mean, and the thing is, the word mythology itself, people don't realize what it actually means. It doesn't mean false. It doesn't mean false, right? Mythology is a history. It's about the
Yeah,
spoken word, right?
yeah.
Um, or I don't know if it's written word or spoken word, but it's about a history, and their myths were their histories, and there's truth to them. And I think that this world that we've been, especially the last 200 years, all of this stuff has been demonized. Schooling has just shut all of this information down.
Close down.
Nobody believes in hell. It's just this thing that people joke about now. And I mean, if you ever went to Sunday school, they do it just to piss you off. They'd be like, if you do the wrong thing, you're going to hell. And, you start going, that's bullshit.
Yeah, whatever.
Right? But there is a hell, but it's not where the damned go, is it? Like it's actually the vampiric entities that feed off us energetically and literally. And
Oh,
to see the Minotaur, but also a Cyclops, I saw like this. It wasn't a Cyclops with one eye, but had that kind of. It just reminded me of Greek mythology.
yeah.
But the freakiest thing that I saw, and I knew, and when I saw that the children being eaten, it was almost like just a factory line of children. This felt like this was the depths of. It felt like there was two layers, and it felt like this was deep, deep
Mm-hmm.
underground. I could hear noises. I could smell things. I could hear water dripping. Drip, drip. I could.
Were they aware of you?
No,
So they're not aware of you
I
at all.
don't think that. To be honest with you, this is the freakiest thing, and I think you'll be interested in this. Um, Ever since all of this happened, I'm so protected. Like, I can't even begin to tell you.
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah,
got like 12 layers of protection over me. Like, and I'm
yeah.
not even trying. I've not had any issues. I have no issues with my energy. I don't feel drained at all. I'm barely sleeping. I just feel like there's this, this role that I've got, this mission that I've got, and I'm like, I'm not tired. I mean, I get tired, like I get sore eyes and I need to go to sleep. Like, I try. I probably fall asleep at like 3 a.m. now, but then I wake up and I'm fine. And I think the meditation also rejuvenates you, and it's because it's it's almost like God's work. I don't know how else to put it,
No,
because
it is God's work.
yeah, and
No
it's
question.
it's shining the light on this
Yeah.
darkness that's there that people forgot about, and you
Were
can't.
you scared? Some people would say, "Oh, that's really scary." And if you're seeing children being eaten, that's quite horrific.
I
How do
was
you?
I was astonished, and the freakiest thing was the center of Australia was like a pit of fire. It wasn't. It
So,
was like lava, pit of fire. Sorry.
but you called it a sinkhole, I think.
Yeah, it was like a sinkhole, because what happened before my eyes. Because I was like, oh my god! Like, I was just seeing these scenes of these minotaurs, and um, I was sort of drawn to the center of Australia, and I was like, oh my God, that's why it's called the red center. Oh my God, that's why nothing grows there. That's why it's so dry underneath, because like right underneath, there was like this lava pit almost, and it was like this swirling thing, and all of these demons were falling into it. It was like something had activated that. And this is something I never got to explain. It felt like something had activated this pit of fire to swallow them up, and they were all getting destroyed. So
Oh, so this is like a really good thing happening in the middle of Australia.
at the moment, yeah. I
And
think,
you described it as a whirlpool, didn't you?
yeah, it was like a whirlpool, and it
That
was
about the
like,
same time that Trump was doing a talk in front of 17 whirlpools.
and when I said whirlpool, and I said it's like this drain was, and I was like, oh my God, drain in the swamp. What the hell?
Yeah.
I didn't realize until afterwards. Oh my God, this is like literal. And the other thing is, what I say to everybody in my videos is that you've got to stop thinking of this world as just 3D,
Mm.
because the 3D is the illusion, okay, and the yeah, the 3D is the illusion, and so what we're seeing and what I'm describing, it's on a different, I guess, a different dimension. It could be 4D. They could be like 4D creatures, and but I'm able to see them. So they are affecting us. And the way the Alliance is fighting all of this stuff is on multi dimensions. Okay. So you can sit there and say there's aliens coming and saving us and doing this, but I think it's just, like, I just think there's other dimensions. Yeah, there's other dimensional help, higher dimensional help. I think there's like occult practitioners that are helping. I think you've got military. I think you've got, political sort of stuff. So this, all these layers, and this is, you're talking about thousands of years of absolute inversion of our reality, and the matrix, I guess you could call it, is completely controlled for that reason. Like they were feeding off us, right? And all of that has to come down. And this dissecting and dismantling of this whole thing that has a hold on us. And they're feeding off our energy, not just literally feeding off children. They're feeding from what I felt, what I saw was this like the earth the way it should have been, and this darkness that was sort of stuck to the bottom. It was almost like a magnet. So we had this polar, this duality, right? But what they were doing was that because of the suffering or the darkness that the energy that they exuded, the frequency that they exuded, that kind of like was permeating up to the upper layers, and that's what's kind of holding us down to this reality. That's what it felt like. I think that there is a theory that if this is a computer simulation, like let's say there's an organic sort of earth and there's a computer simulation over the top controlling the reality or what we're seeing, there's a virus in it. Like this is why this stuff is so twisted. This is
this
why.
is the real virus. Is these mother? I'm not going to call them that on this channel, but I've felt that since I was a kid. This demonic energy. My first memory was demons coming to me in my bedroom. And I've always known it, and then you kind of put it to one side, you get on with your life, kind of forget about it, and then it just won't leave you alone because it's there, and you see things, and you like, and I shouldn't tell anybody about this, but we're in this time of truth, and you're like a shining beacon to me, and to hundreds of thousands of other people at the moment. And I'm interested in that idea because I think. You mentioned that you saw the Earth as kind of flat, and you were apologising for it, which I understand why you were doing that, because that's the easiest way to discredit somebody is to call you a flat earther. But
I'm not a flat earther, by the way. I'm not a flat earther.
I'm not either, but I understand I understood what you meant, and it is like I've described this as a farm for years. We are literally in a farm, and it's kind of like the mystery schools taught about this being a facsimile Earth. And that we die, but we go to a certain level. It is like afterlife, but then you get recycled, you come back, because it's just about soul, moosh, energy, blood.
Well, that's part of the matrix. That's a false system. So, and also I think Hindus talk about that's moksha. I think I don't know if that's in the Hindu religion, moksha. So that's the recycling of the souls, but that's a trap.
Yes, trap. That's what I mean. When I say, yeah.
We go, I have, I was Cleopatra in a past life or blah, blah. That's a trap. Let's get out of here, right?
It's not where we're supposed to be. It's like a ceiling. Yeah. I see it as a ceiling, and people stay within it. They don't go where they really should go, which is up there.
It looks like a net. So when I've seen it, okay, it's a net. The other thing that this can lead on to this discussion about chakras and stuff like that. The other thing that I've realized quite profoundly is that there's a lot of terminology that people use, particularly in New Age doctrine and things like that, that is really just of this matrix. Okay.
Yes. So I think the New Age thing is part of the trap.
It is part of the trap.
I've always felt like that, and I've been to ayahuasca ceremonies. I've done this, that, and the other, and I've always felt a little bit uncomfortable because I didn't quite understand. To me, I thought there's something else beyond this. I've always felt that. And your videos really confirmed that I'm not the only crazy one.
Well, it's a little bit like, you've got to understand, I've been counselling people for decades, and a lot of them, when they first discover that they want to know more about their life, they get caught up in that New Age stuff. And I've always said, and you can ask any of my clients, I've said, don't believe everything you read. There's a lot of stuff, and I even worked in crystal shops and bookshops with all this stuff, and I go, don't have to believe it all. Like, come on, man. Like the whole Dorian virtue stuff and all, it's marketed virtue signaling, I guess, kind of, you could say that. It's sort of like this, this marketed stuff to make you feel, oh, love and light and all of that. There is truth in it. There is sort of like occulted
Exactly the
messages
same
and
as the Bible.
information. Yes.
Exactly the same as the Bible. There's lots of truth in that, but they took out bits that, stop you going the whole way.
Yeah.
Because they understand that we're spiritual. They understand the demons I'm talking about. They understand that. They have to give us enough to shut us up. That we become satisfied.
Yeah, and it gives you that sense of, it gives you that sense. The other thing is like, if we're in this matrix now, this is like Chris Geo and Cherie Geo, they do a lot of ayahuasca and stuff, and the stuff that they've sort of come to the conclusion of, they're on Beyond the Veil, by the way, so I did an interview with them.
Yeah, the radio. Oh,
yeah, and we're good friends and stuff. We've become friends and stuff. So
I just subscribed to the channel. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're amazing. So I mean, that's their level of gnosis is like right up here, right? Because a lot of beginners are like, they're not going to get this. They're not going to get the stuff that they talk about, because it really blows your mind about your entire reality is not what you think it is. And so, I was going to say about, if we're in this matrix, then the things like the entities that are positive are even of this matrix, right? They're a creation of this. So angels are part of that. Spirit guides are part of that. Different sort of levels of maybe entities that are speaking to you are part of that. It's all part of this reality. It's been created for this reality only. And those of us who are from outside of this reality, we weren't created in this reality. We've got another place to go to, right? And it's not outer space. It's like outside. I don't know how to explain it other than this. We're not talking about planets in space, but we're not from here. We created this as a game, as a simulation, right? This is just a theory this is a belief system I have, okay? And it's because of the stuff that I've seen and I've pieced things together, but I don't want anyone to take this on board and say they believe it, okay? Because you need to experience it for yourself, and you need to be able to, really sort of process this information for yourself and live through it to understand this. But I've had so many visions that I have pieced this information together, and that's what I believe is the reality. I mean, I've seen myself in a pod, okay? I know I'm not from here. This is a simulation, okay? And so back to the New Age stuff. I mean, this stuff sort of keeps you trapped, okay? So the stories of like, oh, there's angels and then they're going to help you and all of that, and people find comfort in that, and that's fine, that's okay. But because there was this corruption of our reality, this takeover of these demonic entities, these archonic entities, they have corrupted these things that were made for us, that were supposed to help us, okay? So when you're channeling information from, say, an angel, which is what I used to do in my 20s, I used to think, oh my God, I'm channeling this stuff, and we don't know who that is talking to you.
Who's talking to us, because they're great deceivers.
They are.
I've known this for a long time.
100%. And I've had my run-ins with Ouija boards. Okay, and that's a story. That's a whole movie in itself. Okay?
Well, we're going to do 4 or 5 videos.
Okay, we'll do. I'll have to tell you about it beforehand. That was freaky. Okay, but that cemented all this stuff, all this experience I've had with these other things, these demonic things, these things that you can't trust. And even going out on a limb and saying to people, and I'm willing to say I was wrong, okay? I'm willing to say I was wrong. And I think that's really important. Like your belief systems are going to change as your understanding unravels and gets revealed to you. Now, I'm on a public platform, but I'm going to have to really just say, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that anymore. But I've done a lot of that in my 20s and 30s. And one of those things was spirit guides. Now, that was my business. I did spirit guide portraits. I was known as the artist who did spirit guide portraits. And these weren't just, you get the spirit guide portraits and they look like they drew it with their foot. Like, really. I'm an actual artist. So
my spirit guide is actually a foot. That's weird.
Now, look, I don't believe like people don't have guides. I think that you do have guides. But how do I solidify that entity in this? They're multidimensional.
Yeah.
You probably can't even see them with your naked eye, and what they're presenting to me is like a past life, or you know, it's not necessarily how they embody themselves or how their feelings. So how do you draw that? How do you, it's a very, it was something that I was starting to become puzzled by, and I couldn't in good faith continue doing that for people. I was also, I mean, I'm a medium as well, but I really got to the point where I just decided I'm going to stop doing mediumship because it was draining me, and that's a
Mhm.
bad sign, right?
Mhm.
It was draining me. Like I was hitting the nails on the head. People were like freaking out. Like, how did you know that? Like, I mean, specific things like their uncle's favorite food, or a cultural word that no, like I didn't even speak the language, and I was seeing these things. Okay, so there's not
Mhm.
a question of you know, you're not good at being a medium, but the thing was, I started to realize was these, I don't know what's coming through. I have to protect myself. This could be draining. If I have an attachment, how do I get rid of it? And if they're draining you, then they're feeding off you. So that we know that these are deceivers. And I was just getting to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore. And whenever anyone asked me, I would say, you know, and they always leave it to the last minute. Like I'll do a whole reading and they'll go, oh, by the way, did my uncle come through? And you're like, oh, God. So I've right at the bat, I just started saying to people, I'm not doing it anymore. And I also, the spirit guide portraits, I couldn't do it in good faith anymore. And this was because of this. What I realized is that if it's in this reality and keeping us in this um, this cycle of reincarnation, it's a trap.
Yeah.